Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Oxford Academia webinar. My name is Josh Harkins, and I'm the program director for our Oxford Academia program at the University of Oxford. And I'm joined by Professor James Basker of Barnard College and president of the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, as well as Pablo Wickham, who is one of our fantastic faculty members at Oxford. And I'm gonna turn it over to Jim to take us away with this conversation.
Thank you, Josh, and thanks for organizing our conversation. I'll just say a word more about where I'm coming from, and then I want to have a gentle conversation with Pablo, who is, as Josh indicates, one of our star teachers and a beloved friend and colleague of many years in Oxford. Um, I am a career academic, and I was many years ago a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, as is Pablo now, which is one of the ways we know each other. Um, I did my doctorate at Oxford in English literature. I returned to the States and started my career at Harvard University, where I was an assistant professor of English and a senior tutor in one of the colleges. And then moved on to Barnard College in New York City, part of Columbia University, where I have been ever since. But at the center of my life also has been a continuing academic and pedagogical presence in Oxford. Really, since the 1980s, I started the first high school program the first academic program at Oxford for high school students in 1985. And I've been involved every summer since, barring the COVID years, in leading and helping to organize an academic summer program, thus Oxford Academia, which is my pride and joy at the moment. Um, and so what I want to do in this conversation is try to bring to life not the teaching, the people, the core values, and some of the things that students can expect. And no better person to do that with than my good friend Pablo Wickham. So Pablo, in our little back and forth, could I start just by asking you to give a mini autobiography? How did you come to be in Oxford and where you're from and what do you do now?
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you, Josh, as well. Hi, everyone. So as Professor Jim just said, I'm also a Rhodes Scholar, and I'm a Jamaican Rhodes Scholar. I was elected in 2021, and so that's why I was born in Jamaica. I grew up there most of my life, and I decided to pursue my tertiary degree or my undergrad in the United States. And so I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut, and I chose Wesleyan because a mentor of mine told me it'd be a great fit, a fantastic fit, and he was so correct because I had a dual interest in both science and also theater. And I did manage to double major in both. And after completing that, I won a scholarship to come to Oxford University, and that's where I currently am. I'm doing a DPhil, because that's what Oxford calls PhDs. I'm doing a DPhil in clinical neuroscience, and I just submitted, so I'm in the final year of my degree and looking forward to, what the future holds. I've been with Oxford Academia and working with Professor Jim for the past 3 years. This summer, will make the fourth year. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to as many of you joining us after hearing what we had to talk about, what you can expect at the summer program. So I'm very excited to share what I teach and what my colleagues also will be offering.
Well, it's so fantastic. And, just hearing you talk about the multiple majors you had as an undergraduate, you're there in theater, you're there in science, now doing doctoral work in neuroscience. For us, you teach public speaking and debate, which people can already hear why that is. You're typical of the faculty we have, who are people who are intellectually alive in many different areas, and in some cases combining subjects back and forth. But would you say a little bit, if we dive into it, we have majors and minors in the program in Oxford in the 2 week sessions. Say a little bit about the debate and public speaking course and your approach to it and what your kids have been like.
Right. So as Professor Jim said, I do debate and public speaking, partly because I did debate in high school, and then when I moved to undergrad, I did mock trial. I don't know how many people are familiar with mock trial, but it's you can think of it as like fake court. You get a case document of like some crime that's been committed, and you have a list of witnesses who have to appear before the court. And some of the students pretend to be attorneys, and others pretend to be the character witnesses. And so I was involved in that, and that helped, hone my debating skills and my public speaking and acting was like well-rounded. And so I approached Oxford Academia and was like, I think I would like to teach this course. And in over the course of 2 weeks, I do pack a lot of content into my seminar because especially the major and also the minor as well. I try to give students opportunity to speak because that's why they join the class. And so mine is one of the rare classes where the students will talk more than me. The first lesson, of course, I will be, trying to break the ice, introducing the topic and what they can expect from the syllabus, getting them out of their shell because students come in wide ranges. Some have had debating experience and maybe not much general public speaking. Others would have had public speaking and probably no debate. And then there are some people who just like, they're even scared to talk to me on a one-to-one basis. And so I have to work with them and say, okay, how can I get all these individuals who are at various levels to a degree where they can stand in front of an audience and share something that's their own creation. And I tackle this in a number of ways. So one of the first assignments that I have students do in the second class is to talk about themselves, share their autobiography. And in that lesson, I tell them, you tell them the greatest story that you will ever tell in life. And the reason I say it's the greatest story you ever tell in life is because when you get to the stage of applying to college, the universities are going to ask you, tell us about yourself. Once you finish university and you're looking for a job, or maybe you're looking for even more higher education, again, people are going to tell you, tell me about yourself. When you go to parties or dinners with influential people, people are going to look at you again and say, tell me about yourself. And people are scared to talk about themselves. And the funniest thing is that you know yourself more than anyone else will know you. So if you can't tell your story, chances are your story will never get told. And so this is why one of the first exercises I have students do is talk about the subject that they're an expert in, and that's them. And so they give each other feedback and they say, well, maybe you were pacing around too much. Maybe there was too much hand movement. There were too many arms. And that inspires them to think about what are they looking for in a public speaker that makes a public speaker good and what they themselves should not do as well. Because they can't be hypocrites. They're like, oh, you were saying a lot of arms, but then when they get up there, they're also saying a lot of arms. And so they hold each other accountable and they grow in that way. And then we have various exercises throughout the weeks, like impromptu speaking. They get a topic, one word, or maybe just one phrase, and they have 2 minutes to prepare a speech. Well, sorry, 30 seconds to prepare a 2-minute speech. And so that's very daunting. But they're encouraged to step outside of their shell, step outside of their comfort zone, and try something new. And it's beautiful to see all of them take these risks. And I've watched students, I'm thinking of a student right now who came in. He didn't want to do my course, I must admit. His mother forced him to do it. And he was the youngest in the major. And he couldn't talk to me confidently, just the two of us. And by the end of 2 weeks, he was standing in front of the entire summer program giving a 5-minute speech. And that's probably one of my fondest achievements, I want to say, in helping someone grow into themselves. And I'm excited to see what that young man will go on to accomplish. And so if you do want to challenge yourself and become a better public speaker, because it's the number one fear among humans, I would say join debate and public speaking, either my major or my minor. And I see Michaela has joined us, another excellent colleague of mine. So
Yeah.
I will stop
Oh,
talking for a second.
it's wonderful to hear you talk about the individual coaching and the way you adjust the teaching to student needs and then your pride in the product. I want to pause our conversation to draw Michaela in because I see she's joined us, but I also see she's in some exotic place, maybe traveling or I'm not sure. So, Michaela, would you come on and introduce yourself and say a little bit about your own kind of academic autobiography and then something about what you're teaching, if you're able to.
Yeah, I'm able to. You might hear some background music, but I assure you that I will be louder than this. than the music. It's like I took Pablo's course, basically. I wanted to say yes, I'm traveling right now, but I just received an email with the link, and I wasn't sure if it's going to happen this time or another time. And I just sent a brief message to another colleague of mine and my husband, Luca, and he just said a really iconic sentence. I have to repeat it now. He said, "Anything for Jim." He just said that. And I said, of course I will do it. I'm just looking for a good corner. But to briefly introduce myself, my name is Michaela, and I'm a neuroscientist and an architect. So an engineer and architect, but I'm also an educator. And I'm really passionate about human education, with the emphasis on the word human. And at the same time, I'm also in the arts. So I do design, and I do painting and sculpture. But when it comes to sciences and engineering, I'm super passionate about interdisciplinary education and interdisciplinary learning and phenomena-based learning, and in general about science communication and about education in general. So this is my passion. Unlike a lot of other academics, my emphasis is not on publications. It's about kind of like dissemination of knowledge and innovative approaches to knowledge and the human factor in general, I have to say, especially in today's world, I have to emphasize that.
Michaela, you're fabulous. I happen to know, for various reasons, that you are at Cambridge University on a very distinguished fellowship, and you're at work developing a new field of academic inquiry, which you have dubbed neuroformology. And without pushing that too far, could you say a little bit about specific courses in our program you've taught, which have been architecture and design and AI, and gosh, over the years, probably others too? Would you say a little bit about classes you teach?
Yeah, of course. So, of course, when it comes to Oxford academia, I've been in a few roles. In general, I've been for 10, 11 years, I have been leading the architecture and design program. The specifics of that program are interesting for everyone, because I have to say it is the only program in the world that teaches neuroscience, basics of neuroscience and neuropsychology to future architects and engineers. So this is a field that 11 years ago was pretty fringe, but Jim and everyone at Oxford Academia, they were really receptive to this interdisciplinary new field. So neuroformology is basically, I can describe it as neuroarchitecture. It is a science that describes and researches how human beings, how our nervous system reacts to spaces. It's similar to neuroaesthetics, for example. And the specifics of this course are that it's highly interdisciplinary, and it's the overlap of architecture, design on one hand side, and on the other, cognitive science and neuroscience and psychology. I have been educated at Oxford University, and University of Vienna, Trinity College Dublin, King's College London, and currently I'm at Cambridge University. I'm in a lab that is called it's a lab that does neuroarchitecture, neuroformology, but it's also called Neurocivitas. And we do a lot of really cool stuff, I have to say. So, for example, neurourbanism and neurodesign. And basically, just to sum it up, what I do is a combination of experiments in neurophysiology. For example, I measure, I work with fMRI and skin conductance and EEG. And on the other hand side, I use those tools to see how human beings react to architectural spaces, how they react to the design of cities. And basically, yeah, the result is that our cities can actually be designed in a way to make us healthier and in a way to make us more creative and happier. That's the good stuff.
Love that. And Michaela is right that our program has always valued sort of innovative subjects, innovative research. And I will pause to editorialize about what Pablo and Michaela represent. One of the things I love about this program and the programs I've led for decades in Oxford is the fact that Oxford has one of the most extraordinary collections of human talent I've ever encountered. Top scholars in every conceivable subject from every country in the world come to Oxford in an ever self-replenishing supply of brilliant minds, of intellectual curiosity, of invention, but also passion passions for their subjects and ways that people teach. So it is something I look for in all the people we have as teachers. And as they know, they've heard me say a million times, our goal in each course is to send the students away more excited about the subject you're teaching when they leave than they were when they came. Because passion is essential to, well, to high achievement creatively or in academics, but it's also essential for, a happy life, if I can be a little bit idealistic about it. But I want to revert to practical questions. And Pablo, you started to talk about, you referred to other courses and other teachers. Would you just, and we haven't rehearsed this, so I don't know where you'll go with it, but mention a couple of your colleagues and their course, the courses they teach that you find interesting in any way.
Oh wow. I don't know who might be returning, so I'll just like name drop a couple people and what they might have taught in the past. But Hightown, he is a regular at the summer programs, and he teaches international relations. And I can tell you that you sometimes you walk past his class, and it's just a buzz with excitement as the students discuss various countries and the conflicts that are happening globally, maybe at present or either in the past and hypotheticals that could happen in the future. And each student, because it's so diverse, they have their own perspective that they bring to the table and discuss like the strengths of each country and the resources they have and the tactics that enable global cooperation and sometimes conflict. And I think that's a very interesting course. There's also war and history. And we have sports and business. And so students, those are very athletic. They come in and they get to brainstorm new ideas and what products or business they want to start in the future. And they do presentations at the end of the program. And you can see the innovation that has gone into their projects. And they're very confident in putting it forward. And if I had money, I would invest in the products that they're selling me. I really would. And then you have programs like criminology. And I don't want to spoil what is known with the introduction, but I like how criminology is brought at the summer program because it helps everyone recognize that we're all criminals in some way, but but some are more prosecuted than others. And so when you kind of have the outlook, you begin to analyze yourself like, why do we view certain things like this as a society? And you begin to question the justice system and how we can make it better. So there's a plethora of courses. Michaela will have to help me out on this one. Oh, there's medicine as well. Medicine,
Yeah,
they do some really cool things. I love when I see the final presentation, they do CPR on like a dummy and that sort of thing. They learn how to take blood, like very advanced things that high schoolers are being taught when they come to our program. And I think the important takeaway message that regardless of whatever course you take, you're going to have some hands-on experience. It's not your typical classroom where it's just all theory, reading from textbooks, or just watching videos. You're going to get your hands dirty. You're going to be immersed in a city that's as beautiful as Oxford. And Michaela talks about architecture. The architecture at Oxford is very inspiring. And so even the creativity and writing course, they will be on the punts. Punting is moving a boat with a huge pole in shallow water. And they'll be on the, it's very picturesque. It's very calming, very soothing. And Rob will take the students out there punting, and they'll just sit writing poetry. And you cannot not be inspired to write something when you're on a punt in Oxford.
that's beautiful.
And Michaela will tell you, of course, that she carries the students around to admire the architecture and think about their own designs. But I let her talk about that in detail. But like, it's a place. You have to be here to really understand what I'm explaining to you. But you can see I'm getting very excited just like talking about it. Imagine being here, being with peers, so students your age who are also excited about the same thing you're excited about, and a teacher who's super passionate and has dedicated their life to this particular discipline. Uh, so much
Pablo,
to choose
let's,
from. The only limitation is that you only get to choose two, and some students do multiple sessions. So if you're able to do that, I would encourage you to.
amen. Michaela, Pablo references you're taking kids around Oxford and getting them literally to feel the fabric, the built environment of Oxford, and feel the excitement from that. Our students come from all over the United States and from several foreign countries. I often talk about how they have only one quality in common. 80% of them are the only student from their school back home. So there's a rich mix of people. Would you talk a little bit about your students, both what you do with them that's particularly exciting, especially outside the classroom, and then a little bit of your perception of them? I mean, you've seen interesting groups of students for more than 10 years or 12 years. What strikes you about them?
It's thank you for the question. It's a great question, especially because we're talking about the course that I do most frequently for Oxford Academia, and that's architecture and design. And previously, I've also done AI. So I can also talk about that. That's a separate issue. But when it comes to architecture and design, it's very intense. It's a course that transforms people. I really loved how Pablo was telling you previously about how students discover something about themselves and they become more themselves. And I have to tell you something. This is what Oxford Academia does. What I've seen students do, what I've seen students become is more of themselves. People discover what they can do, they would discover what they like, and they literally become more themselves. That's how I would put it. The other thing that I have to say is there's nothing quite like in-person learning. So as a neuroscientist, I have to tell you this. There is a part in the human brain called the fusiform area. And this part reacts exclusively to human faces. And this is why the tutor system of Oxford and Cambridge made these universities the best in the world. It's nothing, for example, you can say like, oh, is it MIT with innovation? Is it Harvard? No, it's Oxford and Cambridge. And the reason why is small groups and tutors and face-to-face learning. And science confirms this. So what I do in my courses, this is the face-to-face learning that I utilize the best I can. And what we do everything. We do drawing, we do models, we do presentations, and we do theory. So we do everything. When it comes to Oxford and to architecture and design, we basically kind of like do an overview of architecture as an engineering discipline, architecture as art, and architecture as a science. So we combine kind of like this holy trinity, and we combine it into this one wonderful tapestry of like a discipline that is more interdisciplinary than a lot of other disciplines. And I have to mention here a few courses. So Pablo gave you an overview of a few courses that are covered in Oxford Academia, but there's also psychology. Don't forget about that. Psychology students, they do experiments, and they actually do hands-on experiments. They do experiments with a sample of like 20 and 30. And I have to tell you this. You have doctoral students at Oxford and Cambridge who came to this level of doctorate studies, and they never did an experiment with human subjects in that number. So what Oxford Academia students have an opportunity to do here is, under supervision of Oxford and Cambridge scholars, to do an actual hands-on experiment. That is impressive. That is impressive from a point of view of a professor, I have to tell you. And there are numerous courses that do hands-on learning, like history of art, for example, from museum visits to visiting archives. It's incredible what teachers such as Charlotte do with them. And when it comes to, again, going back to my course, what we do in architecture class is we actually do a project, individual project, and we end the entire course with an exhibition. So we do models, actual physical models, and drawings. And I am always amazed by what students do by the end of the course. Like I said, it's transformative, and it's a testament of what in-person, face-to-face learning can do to these students. Like I said, becoming more themselves.
I love that, Michaela. And now our audience has heard very fully from you and Pablo about the life of the mind and about intellectual curiosity and ambition. And I think one of the things our students always experience and come away with is they realize they can function at this level. They can be in conversation with some of the most serious and advanced scholars in the world and not only function well, engage in the conversation, do the project work, learn, but feel confident at it. And it's a kind of foretaste of the best college life and beyond, which is great. So I'm sure everyone feels confident that there's intellectual energy at the highest possible level in this program. But let's go back to a little bit about student life, because there is also a certain comfort, a certain residential life that is comfortable, where students get to know each other, they do field trips together, they get some free time to go to Blackwell's and go to coffee shops and so on in Oxford. Pablo, you're actually in charge of student life for university undergraduates at St. John's College. But would you say a little bit about residential life from your point of view, what it brings to the kids in the program?
Well, it would be remiss for you to come to Oxford and not fully immerse yourself in the city. And so the residential team for Oxford Academia does a phenomenal job of curating a list of activities for you to do throughout the entirety of the 2 weeks so that you can feel involved, you can feel active, and you can get out there and go back home and say, I went and I was not only a student, but I was also a proper tourist in Oxford. And so I think at the top of the list, when you think of Oxford, you think of like maybe posh society. And so high tea is a is a student favorite. And so there's several visits to different restaurants or hotels where they serve high tea. And so you get to dine like the aristocrats from the past and that sort of thing. You do very even basic things like the students they play soccer, they play volleyball at the sports center, and so they connect over that because teamwork brings them together. And I must say this at some point that the students grow so close. One of the best parts of the program is at the end, as those who leave first get on the buses, their friends that they've made through playing soccer or volleyball or going on trips with, going to restaurants. Their friends who are not ready to leave yet, they will wake up early just to wait at the gate and wave to them goodbye. And then they're crying, they're in tears because they've gotten so close with these friends. And they're like, will we see each other again? I was like, you guys have technology, which I'm not that old, but like, but back in my day, it was almost as though I never see people I met as a teenager for a summer program. But they go so close that they're like, we need to see each other again. I can tell you that kids from my class, they plan meetups after Oxford Academia. And so the friendships you make when you go to these activities that are planned by the residential team, it's really transformative. You get to visit places like the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford. And so those who are interested in theatre, like I am, you get to go to the birthplace of Shakespeare, and you get to see modern day actors bring his plays to life. And seeing these professionals do this is quite it's a huge opportunity, and nothing to just like not speak about, because so many people come to the UK and they don't get to go to Stratford-upon-Avon, but Oxford Academia makes sure that you get to go there. You get to go to the Stonehenge and you see what a lot of people just like a lot of mystery surrounds this kind of place. You get to go to London for those who want to see the city of London, and not just like land and then come to Oxford and then fly out from there. Some classes take you to London, but also the residential life will take you to London to see what the city is like. And a lot of people get inspired to say, actually, I might come back to the UK to study or just live because I like it so much. So,
Yes,
um,
yes.
and
So
some of them
Pablo,
do.
let me turn to Michaela and ask her. I know you take your students out to interesting places, of course, every day. I know you also have conversations in coffee shops and quaint places. Name the most interesting or most stimulating place that you take your kids every summer, and say a word about what happens. You're on mute if you can come off.
We're just asking for once.
Yeah.
Just wait for one
Ah,
second.
there she is.
I hear just looking for the button. I'm so excited that you asked me this question. Um, again, I wanted to say that I'm so excited, so passionate about this program. I've been teaching you for 10 years, and for 10 years I have been taking students to London to see the Serpentine Gallery Pavilion, to see Tate Modern, to see brutalist architecture in London, beyond, for example, beyond the Gothic of Oxford, which is super impressive. Going to London to see the London Building Centre, going to London to see the Millennium Bridge, going to see our engineering marvels on London. And again, the brutalist architecture, which is often deemed unworthy by the general public, but architects are always excited by concrete and just feeling the concrete. Um, I take my students to kind of experience London, but also to learn how to do, for example, quick perspective sketches, to learn about modern art. It's kind of like a tapestry of experiences, and but I have to share something about student life in general. So you were mentioning, Paolo was mentioning that students play soccer, that students do all these different activities, from high tea to, for example, cheese tasting, to so many different. Every day it's a variety of options, and they're always excited to sign up for these. But I have to say that the last couple of years I have been super impressed by just seeing students between classes lying down on picnic blankets and reading books and sharing books and sharing recommendations for books, going to Blackwell's, going to Waterstones, and students who never read before, just being inspired by others, reading. And I'm shocked to say this: fiction, poetry, students who are studying politics. There is such a cross-contamination of disciplines and cross-commentation. This kind of like it's also like contagion. You know how in psychology there's emotional contagion, for example, oh, someone is excited and then you become excited. No, this is educational contagion. And people just, it becomes this culture of Oxford academia where they just get into buying books, and they almost like it's so, there's this line, there's like, oh, my suitcase cannot fill all these books. And my dad is asking me, like, you're buying books? You've never bought books before. And they start buying books and they're reading them. It's incredible. They're not on their phones. Seriously, people are just like lying by the river on a picnic blanket, and it becomes a thing. And like I said, this temporary culture of a few weeks, and becomes this unrepeatable thing that transforms their lives. And it's always the books. It's always the books. Every summer, I pick up a few recommendations for my students. I give a couple of recommendations. I read a couple of books, and they see me. They see me like faculty reading a book in real life. And I know it's maybe like weird to talk about because it's an ordinary thing, but I think it's the books for me. Every summer, it's this thing. No, it's really incredible, and I'm super excited about it.
I love that. And I know that Josh is going to nudge us forward because we're running up against time, but I wanted to add to what you've said, Michaela, and you, Pablo, that it's books and it's field trips and it's guest speakers, some of the guest speakers who bring extraordinary expertise. But all of it for me comes down to the human beings, because Oxford is a place of ideas, and those ideas are created and shared and generated and acted upon by an extraordinary collection of human beings. And the 25 or 30,000 people who make up Oxford University are truly an extraordinary resource, which is central to what we do. And it's immersive. And I think, as you both are suggesting, it's kind of electric atmospherically, whether it's walking physically around the town and the university historic sites, or being in the bookstore and feeling all of those incredible books in every field of knowledge, or meeting people, scholars in other fields, teachers in other subjects in the dining hall, or out in the quadrangle, just hanging out. And I think that quality of bringing people together in exciting ways is the essence, I think, of the program. I know we have to back off here, and because there's a lot more we could say. I know the three of us would love to talk about what happens in this program, but I think it's fair to say we've seen students not only get excited and experience things they couldn't experience in high school or in any other place, but also literally, as you both said, feel transformed in terms of their level of confidence, their interest, their knowledge of what subjects they care about and want to pursue further, the knowledge of subjects they never heard of before and are suddenly interested in, and then just their sense of possibility that you could be in communities like this the rest of your life if you think about it, if you focus your efforts that way. So Josh, thinking about focusing efforts, people who want to apply to the program, give us some practical details. That's, I think, the most important takeaway for folks.
Absolutely. So, for those who are looking to apply to the program, if you head to our website, oxfordacademia.com, there's a big green Apply Now button. You click that button, it takes you to our application, which is some biographical details and that you fill out. And then when you're sure you're ready to go on the program, which since you've clicked the Apply Now button, we hope that you are, then you would go ahead and put down a deposit, which is a tuition deposit as well as an application fee. And then there is for the student, as part of the application process, we ask for 2 teacher recommendations as well as an applicant's kind of personal statement of somewhere in the range of 150 to 300 words. We're not looking to have this is not a college essay. This is an opportunity for your student to tell us and tell their future instructor, their future faculty member, why they're excited to be on the program, why they're interested and what gets them excited about the courses that they're taking. And that gives us a chance to get to know the student better. And then also we pass that information along to the faculty so that when the students arrive in July, they are able to hit the ground running in their seminars because the faculty already have a sense of who's in their class and can do what they do best, which is teach in that small group format to each individual student. So that's a little bit of what the application process looks like. And in the meantime, as we're starting to wrap things up, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them either through the chat feature or through the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer them.
And the sequel to that, Josh, thanks for that, is simply to say that I try to make myself available to people during the course of the year who have particular questions. So I do individual Zoom chats with interested students, sometimes with parents who are keen to know more. I can't promise you Pablo or Michaela again on a Zoom like this until next summer because they're very busy people teaching and pushing forward the boundaries of knowledge where they are. I'm very grateful to you, Pablo and Michaela, for taking the time to share your enthusiasm and your experience with the students. I'll make myself available in the next few months. I'm hoping to see Pablo and Michaela in the UK in the spring, maybe the last week of March. But certainly I'll let you know in advance when I'm coming. And I'll be on the ground in the summer and eager to meet students. I offer historical walking tours and some special guest lectures on topics of my own research in history and in literature. So I really would encourage you all to be part of the program. Come and see us. And I look forward to seeing you on your arrival day in Oxford next summer. Thank you all.